I'd like to introduce our guest speaker. Where is Mary? Mary-Jane, right behind me, Mary-Jane Morifi. We're very lucky to have Mary-Jane come to talk to us here this morning. She completed a Bachelor of Social Science and a postgraduate degree in Sociology at the University of Cape Town, and she went on to complete postgraduate studies in Arts and Sciences at Harvard University. At an early stage in her career, she worked in the offices of the UCT Fund in New York. In both the business and non-profit sectors, Mary-Jane Morifi has been a pillar of leadership and success. She has spent the bulk of her career with BP, the third largest energy company in the world, managing aspects of global operation, developing efficient supply chain models, and engaging in long-term strategic business planning. Mary-Jane Morifi subsequently worked as Executive Head Corporate Affairs at Anglo-American Platinum Limited and was a member of the Anglo-American Platinum Management Services Board. Previous appointments included Chairperson of Sukanjalo Investments and serving as a council member of the University of the Western Cape and serving as a trustee of the Black Sash Trust. I now hand you over to Mary-Jane Morifi. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't know that I had such accolades in my CV. Vice Chancellor, distinguished professors and scholars, and my fellow fee tuition-paying parents whose children and money went to UCT for the past 4 or 5 years. Friends, and most importantly, the Commerce graduating class of 2014. I am honored and humbled to stand before you today at this annual rite of passage of this extraordinary university. When I was invited to share a few comments with you, I was explicitly told by Dr. Price that as the university would like to keep congregations of this nature to under 2 hours, I only had 10 minutes to spend on my speech. Well, you don't ask a black woman born storyteller to tell a story that spans 53 years and limit her to 10 minutes. In my culture, Professor Price, Dr. Price, 10 minutes is what we spend on greetings and pleasantries before we get into the real stuff. So my first thought was to decline the invitation, as there was no way I was going to be able to do all of this and tell a compelling story in 10 minutes, a story that would be based on my own life's journey. However, my family convinced me to accept the invitation, if not for my own sake, but for the sake of that one student that might hook on a message that might set them on the path to greatness. So I stand and I accept it. I will now fast forward to my arrival at this prestigious university nearly 33 years ago. You see, Dr. Price, I have a confession to make. I had to lie to an extremely important man, or so he thought he was. To get into this university, as a black person wishing to study at UCT, it was a requirement for me to apply to the Minister of Bantu Education. I believe it was one Dr. Piet Korenhof at the time. And I had to apply to him for special permission on the basis that the course that I wished and wanted to pursue was not available at a black university. And students and parents, I am deliberately not saying historically black university, because that term was not conjured at that time. So I wrote a letter to Piet Korenhof in Pretoria asking for permission to study microbiology. How I chose the course, I went and looked through the course curriculum of every single black university, and none of them offered microbiology. That was my savior. So you see, Piet, ek het vir oom gelieg. I lied to Piet. I never had any intention of studying microbiology. I simply wanted to exercise my right to study in the company of great scholars, black and white, on equal footing in an open, liberal academic environment, to have the same chances as anyone else at the university and in the big, wide world. So, Wampit, ek het gelieg, and I took that opportunity. And what an interesting time I spent at this prestigious university. And I was ready to tell you all about it, but I told you the congregation is set to last 2 hours, and I need 2 hours to tell you that story. The experience of gaining admission and graduating from this university taught me very important lessons that continue to guide my life to this day. The university gave me an undergraduate degree in social sciences. I'm sorry, I've got no BCom in my resume. And it helped launch my career in several key ways. First, UCT gave me an opportunity to be a contributing member of the research team at SALDRU, which is in the School of Economics, with Professor Francis Wilson being part of the second Carnegie Inquiry. This time, Carnegie Inquiry looking at black poverty. And this gave me an insight into the conditions of poor farm workers and sheep shearers living in the Karoo. Second, UCT gave me an opportunity to spend a year of postgraduate study at Harvard University as a fellow, where I could explore philosophy, sociology, theories of justice, and of course, Chinese food at Harvard Square. And thirdly, UCT gave me the chance to work for the UCT Fund in New York, raising funds for students wishing to enter this university but not able to afford to do so. One of the notable students we had at that time who benefited from this scheme is none other than the advocate who is giving all those people in Marikana, Lonmin, a huge headache because he is representing the Marikana miners. The university taught me 3 important lessons: to dare the impossible, to stand confidently in the world, to go about my business, guided by love for our people and country, determination to do the right thing, and make choices that put gifts that I have been given to work for the common good. So I stand here before you today and defying expectations of the Minister of Bantu Education, and I want to express my appreciation and great gratitude to the university for the rich opportunities and the launchpad you have given me and countless others over the years. Never in my wildest dreams could I have predicted that these jobs in research, fundraising, and NGOs would eventually lead me to executive leadership positions in the world's largest oil and mining companies. When I joined BP Petroleum here in Cape Town in 1993, I was quite disappointed by what one of the world's largest oil companies was doing, or not doing, in terms of giving back to the community. At the time, the extent of its corporate social investment was little more than giving to the SPCA. Now, don't get me wrong here. I have nothing against animals. I have a beautiful, gorgeous Rhodesian Ridgeback. I have 2 stupid Basset hounds of my own. But in a land of extreme inequality and poverty, in a country not yet democratic and free at that time, I was genuinely surprised that a company of BP's standing was not a bit more imaginative in its investment in human capital. I discovered, for instance, that a number of children in South Africa were dying as a result of drinking paraffin or as a result of shacks in the fires, which were caused by paraffin stoves that fell over, drinking paraffin from bottles that were not unprotected. These are social problems that were never evident to the leaders of BP before, but it took a woman who grew up in a poor community and who knew firsthand the perils of this petroleum byproduct to innovate a solution to the social problem, the paraffin safety cap, and to start a national campaign to prevent paraffin accidents using BP funding. Developing a child-proof safety cap for all paraffin bottles used to purchase BP paraffin was good for public health. It was good for public safety. It was good for the community. But most importantly, it was good for business. It actually led to what is today PASASA, the Paraffin Safety Association of South Africa. Students, doing the right thing is good for business. It creates shared value. I have come to realize, too, that courageous choices deliver the best returns. There's a story I'd like to tell you about my time at Anglo-American Platinum and how playing it safe simply wasn't good enough at the time to meet our ambition to be good corporate citizens. We realized that the traditional corporate social investment would have limited success in addressing the grinding poverty of communities affected by mining in the petroleum belt. Our traditional corporate social investments had failed to bring about lasting, sustainable change in the lives of mine host communities. We could not guarantee the livelihoods of mine workers and local supply chains after the mines were depleted. We did not create alternative employment opportunities for labor-sending communities. If we wanted to maintain our social license to operate in these deprived areas, if we wanted to comply with government's socio-economic and labor planning processes, if we wanted to transform the hostile relationships between big mines and their host communities, and if we wanted to do the right thing by fellow South Africans living in poverty, then we needed bold, courageous, and innovative solutions to these very complex problems. If we wanted to position these mining host communities for life beyond life of mines, we needed to put control of their development and upliftment back into their own hands so they can drive their own long-term sustainability with the support and assistance from mining companies. The solution? We made a bold proposal to the board of directors of Anglo-American Platinum and its parent company, Anglo-American. We designed a community equity participation program to put assets in the hands of communities affected by mining. And they agreed to make available shares equivalent to nearly 3% of the company's shareholding. Now let's talk hard bucks here. We are talking about 3.5 billion rand in the hands of communities previously living in grinding poverty. This groundbreaking equity scheme, known as Alchemy, resulted in host communities and the labor-sending areas becoming the third largest shareholders of Anglo-American Platinum. Now, to ensure transparency and public accountability, we established an independent umbrella charitable trust, aptly called Lefa la Rona, our inheritance. When we established 4 development community trusts and a not-for-profit company representing the labor-sending communities. Project Alchemy has been hailed as a bold transformational program that introduced community ownership and economic empowerment at a scale never previously attempted in the mining industry. Looking back, hard as it may have been, creating Alchemy was the easy part. Turning this bold vision into a scheme that truly sets communities up for a sustainable future beyond life of mine will require leadership from men and women driven by desire to do good, the desire to serve with love, with empathy, with respect, with honesty, with integrity, and most importantly, men and women who are not only able to think from the head, but who are also very adept at feeling and acting from the heart. We need more innovative, bold solutions and decisions if we are to have any hope of addressing the growing economic inequality between rich and poor in South Africa. Oxfam said recently that 2 of the richest individuals in South Africa own the equivalent of the bottom 50%. And I read recently an article in the New York Times by Robert Frank titled "Another Widening Gap." And the title was also "The Haves versus the Have-Mores," not the have-nos, none, the have-mores. Now, Robert Frank says in the article that the wealthy now have their own wealth gap. The wealthy have their own wealth gap, with the super rich leaving the merely rich behind and creating 2 markets, one for the haves, the other for the have-mores. I don't know about you, but I think we are in serious problems if we can define individuals who own hundreds of millions as merely rich. Whatever success I have attained to this day is as a result of very generous individuals who stepped in to mentor and guide me, and sometimes in very subtle ways. Whether it was the example of my mother, who sold fat cook and acha to school kids in Atteridgeville to pay for my private school education. Whether it was James Boulder, who was a doctor here at this university, who believed that a young township girl like me was worthy of being the youngest Harvard South Africa Fellow, or whether it was the coaching and the support from my business mentor, Fred Paswana, who's the chairman of the board of Standard Bank, and was my boss as the president of BP in Southern Africa. Whether the small-scale entrepreneur, the chairman of Africa's largest bank, we need more people who nurture young people with advice, support, and guidance. And I hope the students will grow to become those people. We need all to give back to communities from which we came. That is why I'm the chairperson of the local hospice in Atteridgeville, Pretoria, where I grew up. That's why I'm a board member of the Black Sash, an organization fighting to protect the rights of the most marginalized in our community. That is why I mentor and coach young women to help them navigate what can sometimes be shark-infested waters within the large corporates. And that's why I'm currently working to help make Madiba's last wish for the children of South Africa a reality, supporting the building of a new specialist referral children's hospital in Johannesburg to serve the children of Southern Africa, the children that Madiba so loved that he actually committed and dedicated a third of his presidential salary to start and maintain the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. Remember what he said and the message he left to all of us. It is in your hands. No matter what stage you are in your career, we can all share our good fortune with others. Now, with concluding remarks, graduating class of 2014, you do not need me or anyone to tell you about the challenges that we are facing as a society, as a country, and as humanity. You don't need me or anyone. If you did need to be told this, then I would ask all your parents to demand a refund from Dr. Price, because your education here would have been wasted on you. It would have been in vain. You have demonstrated amply through your academic achievements that are being recognized here today that you are more than capable of thinking from the head. As you lift off into the real world, what will determine your success in tackling these challenges will be more than your ability to think from the head. But most importantly, it will also be your ability to feel and act from the heart. When you leave this building and this campus today to embark on your careers, just remember this: do the right thing, informed by love. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the kissy-kissy kind of love here. I'm talking about love for humanity and love for the world we live in. my generation was great at articulating the concept of Ubuntu. We sold it internationally very successfully. What we failed dismally is at living and demonstrating that through our actions and decisions, we are going to need you to win that struggle for us. As for me, the journey continues, the learning continues, and I have tried to be an example to my daughters, one of whom is sitting here in the audience today listening to this, probably just dying with embarrassment. And I want them to be able to stand in front of a gathering, not too dissimilar to this. And I want them to be able to say with pride, if we have come a long way, it's because of the efforts of many, many men, but most importantly, many women who have come before us with that great woman, our mother, in the lead. Dr. Price, thank you very much for inviting me. Now I know how it feels like to be up here, to look at those beautiful faces of young people full of hope and raring to go, but also looking at the parents who are probably saying a silent prayer and say, thank God, I'm done with paying tuition, and please, God, let them get a job, any job, as long as they stop being financially dependent on me. Congratulations to the Commerce class of 2014. Go forth and stand confidently in the world, make courageous decisions, and above all, do the right thing. Thank you.